Hey, welcome to Living Ardently. I'm your host, Adrian Garaldi, and for those of you watching on YouTube, you'll see who my special guest is today. But we have a special episode, which I'm really excited about. I've gotten a lot of questions about this said person on our social media account, so I thought it was just the right time to go ahead and invite her on. So here we are. I really had to pull some teeth to get her on the show, but we got her. So let's get into it. So for today's testimony, our guest is one of 6 children. She's an Orlando native. She's also my fiancé. Please welcome Sarah Beasley. Follow her at Sarah Bees on social media. Welcome! Yay!
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for saying yes. I know it's been a pretty tiring day, but we
didn't have a choice.
Somebody called. So we are recording off one mic. We do have 2 mics, but it's just last time I recorded with some friends in our studio here at Living Ardently. It just didn't, like, it was just too small of a room to like require 2 small mics, and we were like sitting in too close proximity to do it. So you know what? Let's just try one mic. So hopefully it goes well. If it doesn't,
hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah.
I have a pretty low voice.
Hopefully you can hear this podcast and you're listening to this podcast right now. Otherwise, heck with it. So, a lot of people have been coming onto social media when we do the Q&As and asking about our engagement story and things like that. And I thought that it would be great to just, have you on here and talk about that, but also not just do that, but also talk about, like your little testimony, a little hear a bit about your background and where God's worked in your life,
I say I just found out that I'm doing that I'm going to be talking about myself. Right. So I don't have anything prepared, and that's do not enjoy talking about myself, so...
And that's just fine. People who come and share the testimony aren't usually very prepared for it. It's just kind of like, all right, you guys ready? And then I ask them a bunch of questions. So
okay, as long as you've got a lot of good questions.
I do. So like I do, for those of you who haven't heard a testimony testimony time episode, or it's where I have a friend of mine or somebody I know come and share the testimony, and hopes to kind of shed light on different ways how Christ can work in all of our lives. And so however that may look, from a convert to, cradle Catholic, I want to be able to share these different ways of how God can work in someone's life, in hopes to show how, to shed light on how maybe God's working in your life. And so today, Sarah is going to take some time to be a little vulnerable with you all.
Yay.
Yay.
Wait, are you going to do rapid fire questions?
You want to?
Yeah.
To warm it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do that.
Okay, you want to do some rapid fire questions? Okay.
I just thought about it now.
Okay, give me 1 second. Let me get these rapid fire questions ready. Okay, you ready for these rapid fire questions?
Yes.
All right, here we go. What's the last song you listened to?
One of the Taylor Swift ones from her new album. I don't remember which one. We've been listening to that album all weekend.
Oh, that's funny. Fill in the blank. Taylor Swift is blank.
Talented. There's no denying that. Yeah.
What age would you like to retire?
Young. I mean, 40s, 50s would be great.
Cake or pie?
Cake. Yeah, cake.
Big dogs or small dogs?
Oh gosh, I like all dogs, but I had a small dog, King Charles, and so now I love small dogs.
Choose your favorite carb: bread, pasta, rice, or potatoes.
Oh gosh, that's a hard one, but I have to say potatoes really are just...
Because they make vodka.
Best. You get fries out of them. You can just make them so many different ways.
Yeah, I
potatoes
agree.
have to trump the rest for me.
Paper or plastic?
Paper.
Are rats cute?
Their tails gross me out. their tails are really gross, but their little faces, I guess, are cute.
Okay, so favorite car.
I don't know what to say to that one.
Do you salsa dance? Do you know how to salsa dance?
No.
Do you believe in love at first sight?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, that's like kind of like that happened with me and you.
Oh, I guess we'll have to talk about that in a little bit. Favorite type of muffin?
Those double chocolate chip ones they used to make at Costco, or they probably still make them.
From a scale from 1 to 10, how hot do you like your shower?
Like an 8.
Ask for permission or beg for forgiveness?
Ask for permission. I'm a rule follower.
Name a word that starts with the letter Q.
Quiet.
Climb a mountain or jump from a plane?
Oh, climb a mountain. Oh, I'm never jumping from a plane.
Are dogs people?
No. They're intelligent, though.
Do you have any friends taller than 6'4"?
I don't think so.
Polka dots or stripes?
Stripes. I don't like polka dots.
Dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
Dark chocolate. They're both really good, though.
Something you could eat for a week straight?
Something I could eat for a week straight. Probably, like, potatoes and eggs. There's just so many different ways you could make those two things.
Embarrassing store you might be seen in it. Shopping
Embarrassing store?
You might be seen shopping at.
I don't feel like there's an embarrassing store that I go to. Or, I do a lot of shopping online.
What's the lamest dessert that people tried to pass off as dessert?
Oh gosh, this feels like too hard for a rapid fire. Lamest dessert that people try to.
Fruit salad.
Maybe like pudding. I don't know. Pudding's like not that great. Do you like really love pudding? Oh, yeah, I'm not trying to diss your banana pudding.
No.
I just realized that's like one of your things that you make.
What is the most boring thing ever?
Most boring thing ever? I don't know, being stuck in traffic, waiting in a line.
What's your favorite bed size do you prefer?
What?
What bed size do you prefer?
What bed size?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would like prefer like the biggest bed size, like a king size, but
King
I have
California.
a double, and the double's fine for me.
How do you feel about cranberries?
I think they're okay in like certain desserts, but I'm not like a huge fan. Like I don't just want to drink cranberry juice.
LA or New York?
LA. I've been to both, but I think I would go back to LA before New
Scale
York.
of 1 to 10. How good are you at trivia?
Okay, I don't do it a lot.
It's
I think I'm pretty good.
Scale. 1 to 10.
Oh, I didn't hear that part. I think I'm getting way too close. I'm like leaning closer and closer. Okay, sorry, cut this out.
It's good.
What did you say? 1 out of 10?
1 out of 10.
7. Let's say 7.
Swedish fish or Sour Patch Kids?
Swedish fish.
Are tomatoes a fruit or vegetable?
They're actually technically they're a fruit, but everybody thinks they're a vegetable.
Last question. Have you ever stolen anything and what?
Have I ever stolen anything? I don't think I've ever stolen anything from like a store. I think I've taken things from siblings.
What was
and
it?
just
Clothes?
Yeah, I don't know. We didn't really. I don't know. It's kind of hard to like steal things from my sisters because we're all very different sizes.
Right.
I can't think of anything right now. I think I'm leaning. I keep leaning in towards the microphone. Okay.
Again, if you're watching on YouTube, we're working with one microphone, so bear with us. We're making it work. We do have 2 microphones,
I don't know
but just
if I'm messing it up by.
No, you're fine. I think you're great.
Oh,
You're
so great too.
Wow. So, how about we start off with a little bit of your upbringing, being one of 6 kids.
Okay.
What was it like growing up with, was it 4 older siblings?
Yeah, I had 4 older and 1 younger. I mean,
you're all cradle Catholics, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so my mom was as well. My dad converted before they got married, and they got married young. Like, I think they were both 20. And so, yeah, we were raised cradle Catholic, devout, because we went every week. So it's really like all I knew was Catholicism.
Right. You ever have a desire to venture out of Catholicism?
Actually, no. But I've been through periods where I have my doubts, my questions, but I've never had a desire to... I don't know if this was what you meant, but I've never had a desire to, like, join it. Oh,
sorry.
A different... was that important?
No, that's okay.
I've never had a desire to, like, join a different faith or church.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Was that...
Yeah, so did you... So, growing up with them, was it like... you said that we were talking about earlier, you kind of had that middle child.
Yeah, I was, even though I was kind of the youngest for about, I think it was almost 5 years until Teresa was born, I kind of have like the characteristics of a middle child, if you believe in like the birth order thing.
Right.
But that's just like all I've ever knew, was having a lot of siblings and always sharing a room. Like, I always remember sharing a room with my older sister, and then eventually it was also my younger sister, and then it was just me and my younger sister. So, and, you know, we lived kind of in a small house. We didn't have, like, a lot at the time. I didn't realize that at the time. But just, yeah, really used to, like, sharing. And then I was also... I don't think my personality was never as, like, fiery as some of my other siblings. So, like... There would be drama, but it usually, like, never involved me. So I was just kind of like the kid just, like, watching it. I was kind of like one of the peacemakers, I guess you could say. And that's kind of like, I guess, a middle child thing.
Laid back, easygoing kind of child. Huh?
Yeah, and I was very shy. And not with my family, but with everybody else. So
were you all Catholic schooled, homeschooled?
So my older siblings went to Catholic school for a while, and then my parents decided to do homeschooling. And when it got to me, I started out in homeschooling, and then I went to a Christian school. Like, it was like a Christian umbrella school for homeschoolers. It's a little bit complicated to explain. Yeah. And that started in 7th grade.
Okay.
And so that was a small, like, Christian school.
Gotcha.
And they're a little cliquish there. It was hard to make friends. It was hard for me in general to make friends, but I was also part of a really great Catholic group for homeschoolers, and I made friends there, and we were really close to all the families in that group.
It's like it's a common like misunderstanding for those who don't do homeschooling or who haven't ever done homeschooling, or like, oh man, homeschoolers never have friends or thing like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's not true.
I was of that opinion for a while.
Like, I struggled to make friends because I like was so shy, but I did make some. But
The one thing I realized about homeschoolers though, they often have like these little fun, like they do these fun activities, like they learn how to dance or something like that, like together. Like, did you or musical instruments, did you do any of those?
Oh yeah, so one of my aunts is like really talented and creative, and she would teach us, or try to teach us, like, there was the guitar, and then we also did the what is it called,
flute, the recorder.
We had we did like a rehearsal, or no, not a rehearsal, like a little
recital.
A little recital with the recorders. Oh gosh, I feel sorry for the people who had to listen to that.
I remember playing, learning how to play Titanic on that thing.
I don't know what. I remember being like pretty good at it, but still, it was a recorder. Now the guitar, I never got very far because I'm just not musical at all. Like, I'm just not. I don't get music at all. So we did things like that, or there'd be like day trips to museums with other families or groups, a lot of that stuff.
Did you so kind of fast forward then, like, so at what point did you start taking your faith like more seriously? Like it probably was always your child's. Like when did your family's faith and beliefs become your own? Like when did you start really realizing?
It's hard for me to pinpoint that. I know what you're saying. Pinpoint that period of when it became my. I guess maybe I would say college actually. When I was on my own. It was a little bit like, okay, this is how things are done, and you have to go to church, and you don't question it.
Right.
And so I didn't really have too much, that didn't cause me to, leave the church later on. I have heard where that can cause people to, have negative feelings and everything. But I did realize, it wasn't, specifically my family I'm talking about, but a lot of the Catholics we knew growing up and kind of the circles we were in. I did tell you, we were just talking about this earlier, I realized the scrupulosity, it was very strict, and it was just I don't know, there's a lot of pressure to be model Catholics.
Right.
And so I did have, I guess, some negative feelings grow from that, unfortunately. But I would say in college, when I went to first I went to community college, and then when I transferred over to UF, the University of Florida, that's where I think I kind of made the faith my own, if that makes sense, my own.
Yeah.
And I eventually got into stuff that Focus was doing there. Great parish there at St. Augustine's. That was,
for those of you who are not familiar with
church,
Focus, it's called the Fellowship of Catholic. Was it
Fellowship of Catholic University Students?
Yeah. So it's missionaries that go out to different college campuses and minister to those who kind of blended into the college crowd as recently college graduates who go out and be
right
missionaries.
There on the campus or next to the campus.
And they minister to the students on campus.
Yeah, Bible studies and events, and they do mission trips and conferences. Did that answer your?
Yeah. So when was your faith kind of tested the most? Once it became your own, when was it tested the most, and when was that deeper conversion?
Yeah, without a doubt. So I know exactly when it was tested the most. I graduated college, and I actually interviewed to be a Focus missionary, like I said, and they accepted me, and I went to summer training, and then in summer training, I got extremely ill very suddenly. I wouldn't find out until about 6 months-ish later that it was Lyme disease, a really bad case of, it had turned chronic at that point, chronic Lyme disease. Yeah. And I would deal with that for several years, and without a doubt, the darkest, hardest years of my life. And when you're suffering, I don't know, when you think about suffering or about people that are in pain, or you hear about these saints that went through so much, you think, I don't know why that, you're just going to feel this closeness in this union with God.
Right.
I have never felt more like God was
away,
so 1,000 miles away from me. And that was the hardest part. It was why do I have to go? It was just all the why questions, why me? Maybe I just don't suffer well, to be honest.
Right.
But it was, I really questioned everything, why does this happen to me? Why? Am I in pain every day? This is unbearable. Right. And I got to the point where I was just you know what? I don't care anymore. If I die, I die. I was at that point where I just was ready to give up. I was I can't live like this. I can't live like this. I wouldn't say I wasn't trying to kill myself or anything. I never tried to take my life, but I was just at the point, it was that bad. Yeah. I was just you know what, it was... I'd
rather not suffer.
Yeah, it was
more.
At the point where I was I don't know how I'm going to keep living like this. Right. I can't bear the thought of living like this for the next 40, 50, 60 years of my life, Right. However long I live. Right. But thank goodness, it took a long time, but I got out of that, and that probably tested me the most, and it was just so everybody knows, if somebody is going through something or they've got a chronic illness, please don't tell them to offer it up.
Oh gosh,
I understand that, like,
hate it.
yeah, I think if they're, you know, faithful Catholics, they already know about that, and they, you know, that's up to them. That's their relationship with God, and let them make that decision. Offer things up. Just don't be like, oh, offer it up, and please don't. Another thing, don't ever bring up how somebody else has got it worse.
Right.
Like, I don't, like, just don't be like, oh, at least you don't have cancer or something. Like, I personally heard stuff like that, and I was just like, wow, okay,
Jeez
so my
Louise.
suffering is invalid because somebody else has it worse. And I know there's always going to be somebody that has it worse.
Right.
So that does not, like, invalidate your suffering.
Right.
So
it's just, it's not, I hate that period.
those two things.
So, like, I hate those period, but, like, especially when it's you know, you can do that to me who was not sick, but you do it to somebody who was ill.
Yeah.
And, like, you compare, it's like, golly, like, how insensitive can you be? So,
Yeah, and
so we're in that time frame. Like how did that time, you know, like your relationship with God in that time frame, how did that kind of change and mold your relationship with him now?
Oh, that's a good question. How did it change? Well, now that I'm kind of through it, I can look back and go, wow, like, okay, I see now how you brought me through it, or I see how you're working in my life, and also, it was very much like my whole life kind of got turned upside down, and like it felt like everything was being taken away from me, and I was like, why did you take everything away from me? So I had dropped out of focus, and you know, like all my friendships were just dissipating, like, you know, like people just weren't talking to me unless I reached out to them first. So it's like it felt like I lost like everything. But I think now it's just like, oh, I had this plan for my life and I thought it was going to go this way, but maybe it wasn't the best thing for me.
Right.
And you know, and I think where I am now, I was meant to be here, and it was just how I got to where I am now, and I love where I am now, and I wouldn't want it to be any different. Yeah. And that was part of getting here. The growth and yeah, so really it's just like kind of looking back and seeing how
the fruits of
I think yeah, and also like I think I had so many people praying for me, so I could see now I think it was just really like an act of God that I got through it. Like it's other people's prayers as well. Like that's the only explanation for it.
Right. So that's awesome. It's really hard to go through something that you went through and not come out changed, you know? And so I didn't know you at the time when you were going through it, but whenever you speak about it to me, I know that it's something that greatly affected your life, whether for better or for worse. Yeah. For the time, it might have felt like the most horrible thing, but you came out of it a better person. You came out of it. You were able to take that moment, you take that suffering, and look back on it and see like, wow, that sucked, right? Oh, yeah. But you know, I got through it, and I think that shows like how much you can endure in the future.
Yeah, I feel like you put it into better words than I did. Right. Yeah, but I'm truly at a point where actually I don't reflect on that time period often. Like it's not something on my mind every day, right. which is
just crazy because that was like hard for you, right? For a long time.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like kind of a black hole in my memory. I tell people my memory of that time isn't that great because it was, I think it was just so intense that maybe I kind of blocked some of it out. Yeah. And it took a long time for me actually to get to the point where I'm like comfortable talking about it. Yeah. Because I even had a little bit of like PTSD after it, and I would get nightmares. Yeah. And I didn't, and people wanted to talk about it, and they wanted, ask me all these questions about Lyme disease, and I wasn't ready to talk about it, and that would be hard for me too. Yeah. That's another thing I would say. If a person's not comfortable talking about something, they're not ready. They're not ready.
Right, you can't push,
like,
especially
please respect that.
especially if they have some sort of mental illness from it. Like anxiety or things like that. Like you don't want to push someone with that, or like, especially you don't want to belittle that. You know?
And I had a lot of stuff come up with that I was not prepared for at all with Lyme disease. I went through a really intense depression for it was like good 2 or 3 months where it was so intense. Like, gosh, I have so much like empathy, I guess, or sympathy for people who go through depression for years and years. I'm like, that is such a tough battle. Like, I have so much respect for them now.
Right.
Because it was just so hard to get through the hours and the day. Let alone the days. It was just like the hours and the minutes were so hard to get through when you're that depressed.
Right.
And then I had some things going on with OCD, but thank goodness those, that's, hasn't been affecting me now.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord, yeah. I mean, it's hard. I mean, for those of you who are struggling with some sort of mental illness or know anybody who is, it's important to make sure that you don't go through those things alone, right? Or you don't allow that person to go through those things alone. So journeying with them and not necessarily having to give them advice, right? But just being heard.
Yeah, and really, I mean, they want to be heard, and there's no shame on taking medicine. I was on medicine for a while there, because basically I went to the doctor and just broke down crying in his office and telling him everything. He's like, okay, it's okay. Like, you're depressed. It's, and he was really, really good about it and everything. And it was induced with, it was because of the Lyme disease. So, it just kind of took like me getting better altogether from Lyme disease for everything to kind of clear up.
Yeah.
And sometimes, what works for one person doesn't work for the other person. Yeah. So you just, I don't know where I was going with this. I think I'm getting kind of lost here.
We want to dive into.
There's no shame in getting help. Like, definitely you need to talk to people, and if they're not taking you seriously, go to somebody else. Yeah. Preferably like a health care professional, like a doctor or a therapist. Right. And there's no shame in taking medicine.
Right. Yeah. And if you are struggling with it, again, like, go seek that professional help. You can go to a friend, you can do those things, that's great. But at some point you have to realize what's going on in your life and kind of take action towards it. And hopefully if you see somebody who's struggling in your life that's close to you, that you're able to guide them in that direction as well.
There's even a hotline now that you can text, and there's like a real person texting you back. I don't know the number, but
it's in our link in our description, in the show notes. I offered that because I offered my phone number for people to call if they need prayers. But I tell them in there, I put in a disclaimer that I'm not a professional. I'm not a therapist or of any sorts or a professional in mental health or anything. So if you are struggling with that, I can pray with you, but I can't offer you more. So then, if you need to call those numbers, the numbers are below.
There's definitely people out there that want to help you. That are trained to help you.
And we plan on having an episode in the future focusing on that with a mental health professional, especially one that is Catholic, hopefully. But we're planning on doing some more stuff like that in the future. But yeah, we're gonna take a quick break right here, and we'll come back with more about our meeting with Sarah in just a little bit. All right, we're back with Sarah. We talked a lot about her testimony in the first half of this episode. This half of the episode, we're going to talk a bit about us and how we met. But I'm gonna let her do the talking.
Have you told the story of us, like how we met?
Kind of. I think on the Q&A last episode with Jarrell, we answered some questions about you, and there was some more that I got that I didn't answer in there because I tried to like incorporate all of them into one answer, and so I thought it'd be also anyway to like get you a little
it's
side
such
of it.
a long story, so I'm trying to figure out how to condense it.
How about this? When did we originally meet?
So we originally met, actually, back up a little bit. My younger sister went to Ave Maria University, and so did he.
Yeah.
So she met him there, and and then my sister got married.
Yeah.
And I already knew who he was because she would show me his YouTube videos that he made at the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want me to mention
That's
this.
fine. I mean, they're in the dark web now.
So she'd show me his videos and just like, this is my friend Adrian. He's so funny. And like, we enjoyed his videos. And then we were introduced at our wedding, and I just told him.
Her wedding.
Oh.
He said our wedding.
At her wedding. And I told him how much I liked his videos. This was early 2017.
When she told me that, I never expect people to watch my YouTube videos that I don't know, and so meeting like a person who watched my YouTube videos without me knowing them, I was just like, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, all I got was kind of like this nervous laugh, and then I don't remember what else was said, if we said anything else.
If I said anything, I don't know.
And my impression of him was, wow, he's like, looks like such a fun guy. I wish I was his friend.
Yeah, then we didn't really.
Oh, God. Your power just got
My power just went out and came back on. There we are. That was great.
Power just went out and came
So
back on.
the power is on, back again, and we're good. But so then we didn't talk after that, after we met. But then we bumped into each other again in social media on Instagram. And
yes, shout out to Jarrell, the living person.
who is now our co-host. We do Q&As last week. So we met. So Jarrell was running the living person. He was doing a mile day in May challenge.
Yeah, we're both following him, and he was reposting Adrian's videos of the mile a day in May. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, it's Adrian, like Teresa's friend. I didn't really know what he was up to. I thought he worked for a parish, but for some reason I thought you worked for a parish in Maitland. I don't know who gave me or how I got that idea. I thought you worked at Annunciation. I don't know if you want me to say names.
That's fine.
I don't know why. I thought somebody told me that. And then he was randomly also meeting my cousins at different places. So his name would come up. And so anyways, I befriended Adrian because I kept seeing his videos being reposted. And I was like, oh, he's like funny, I should follow him. Like, he's really entertaining on Instagram. Like, you just do social media so well. And then I wasn't expecting him to follow me back. Like, I didn't really expect him to, but he followed me back right away. And I was like, oh, I wonder if he even remembers who I am. And then nothing really happened for some weeks. And then I did like this impression of my sister on Instagram stories, the way she talks on Instagram, and he thought that was hilarious. And so we started responding to each other's stories with like the little response, react emojis and stuff. And then you started to like you complimented me one time on the podcast, and I was like, wow, like again, like another person, same person. Again, I don't expect ever to hear from other people who I don't know well about my podcast or about things that I do on the internet. And so the first time I didn't respond to it well, but this time I was like, oh wow, like this person like listens to my podcast and enjoys it. And so then we just kind of talked. And yes, the funniest part is like we did little reactions, but what really started our conversation was he made a cheese pun.
Right.
He said, so cheesy, so great, grate.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just like a little misspelling at first, and then I realized he made a pun, and I thought it was the funniest thing. Like, even literally the next day I was still laughing about it, and I was like, okay, I feel like there's something about this guy that's like drawing me to him if I think this is so funny. Yeah. And then from there we just kept talking and talking and talking.
And it
just never died out.
Yeah, the conversations on it. This was all through Instagram DMs, mind you. We didn't get each other's number.
Ask for my number.
And that's a weird thing because I always ask for people's numbers and we just talk casually, but it's like, I guess when it's somebody you're interested in, it's just like harder to get their number, I guess. Because it's a bigger deal, yeah. And then I was also like never going to ask somebody on a date via the phone. But that ended up having to happen because we met. We met originally because when Teresa, her sister, came down, right, and invited all us to kind of meet in person, and I was like, that's interesting. Like everyone has.
Teresa was like our little matchmaker.
Our hitch, our little.
Yeah, she was.
Will Smith.
Really excited to know that we had been talking because she had mentioned to him to me previously, like, hey, what do you think about Adrian? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know where he lives. He like, when am I going to meet up with him? Yeah.
And then once we did start talking, it was a very interesting time frame.
And also let it be known that I made the first move on getting the number.
So she did get my number by asking me to get a picture.
Like, I'll take a picture of you. He was holding my nephew. At the Lego store at Disney.
And I was wondering if that was her move or my move. Like, where
it was
I
totally
her to
planned
get my
on
number.
my part, though.
But it was totally her move.
This is how I'm gonna do it.
So girls, shoot your shot. I'm just saying. Yeah. Well, at this point, so when we met at Disney Springs, you and your sister like made it happen. Like, we were already like interested in each other.
Yeah, I was hoping he would ask me out.
Yeah, but
and as soon as I saw him at Disney Springs, I was just like, oh, I don't want to be friends. Like,
you want to date him.
Can I say my exact thought?
Yeah.
I was like, he's so cute. Dang it. Like, because at the time I was conflicted whether or not that he just wanted to be friends with me. I was a little bit confused, and we hadn't met up again in person since the wedding. But as soon as I saw him, it was like, game over.
Game over.
That's why I say love at first sight.
Yeah.
Like, I just knew.
You just knew. Yeah. I was nervous. I didn't know how to kind of react, so I talked to the person I knew.
Yeah, we barely talked to each other at first, which was awkward.
Eventually got working and got going, and then, there's a couple things throughout the night, like the Rosary.
You want me to tell that?
Yeah, so the Rosary part was...
So my mom always said to me, she's like, find the man with the rosary in his pocket. And I was like, Mom, that's kind of weird. Like, like, am I just going to ask a guy, like, hey, what do you have in your pocket? Like, how am I going to find out, that? And we were at dinner at Disney Springs, and there was a group of us. It wasn't just us two. Mm-hmm. And we got onto the subject of the rosary, and Adrian pulls this rosary out of his pocket. He's like, oh, yeah, I always carry this rosary around in my pocket. Right. And my jaw I felt like my jaw dropped. I don't know if it actually did. Right. And I'm like looking at my sister, like trying to make eye contact. Like, are you seeing this too? Yeah. Like, this is crazy.
It was so funny. I didn't notice it at the time, but she told me afterwards, and I thought it was so funny.
It's like my mom, like, manifesting.
Right. So there's just so many little things in our relationship that just, we want to go into. We want to do a couples episode where we do like a couples date. I mean, like a couple's interview another couple kind of thing, because I think that'd be really fun. But basically, we started after that. We kind of started dating. One of the things that happened is that I invited her after we got each other's number. I was texting her, and I invited her out to this like young adult event in Orlando, and we were both like super excited. And then the day of, she texts me. Like, oh no, the day of, she's like, yeah, I asked her, she got the address. She said, yeah. So I was like, great, I'll see you today. I'm going to ask her on a date. Like, that was the intention. My friends were going to be there for me to support.
This was like the week after.
The week after. Mm-hmm. And then I said, okay, my friends were there to support me. They were going to help me out. Cool. And then I get to my car, like I clock out, I get to my car, and I'm driving. I'm going to head over to meet with some friends to drive over to the event. And Sarah texts me, I can't come. I feel so sick, da-da-da-da.
Yeah, it is terrible headache.
Yeah.
And it sounds so fake.
At first, I was just like,
I'm making an excuse. Oh, I have a headache. I can't come. But it was like a migraine. It was
because I could
truly a bad headache.
I could tell. I could tell you
horrible for canceling.
I could tell you felt bad about it because of the way you responded to the text message. Mm-hmm. So then I was like, the way you texted it, and so then I was like, okay, well, I deliberated with my friends, Lauren and Tanya and Mark, and they was like, you know what? Would it be shameful at this point to ask her on a date through text?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were like, she might not feel up to talking right now because she's sick, so like maybe not call. So we talked about it. I drafted the text message. I showed it to them. They approved. I sent the text message through my watch and through my phone at them and through my Apple Watch off. And I was like, I don't want to know. I was like, this is worse than asking in person. Like, I'd rather just ask in person and get rejected than ask in person and wait.
How horrible would it be if you had like no response that night?
That would have sucked. That would have absolutely sucked. The event would have sucked.
That would have been so terrible.
Gracefully, she responded like.
Yeah, I was trying to write him at the same time. I would see like his little bubbles come up, little writing bubbles, and I was like, oh no! Like I was wanted him to know that I did want to get together, so I was trying to like figure out how to say like maybe I'll come down to where you live and get together with you this weekend. And then I got that text, and immediately my hand started shaking, and like I threw the phone on my bed and then like looked at it again, like is this real?
Right.
And yeah, it was real. It was like what I wanted for, kind of maybe a month at that point to happen. And I was just like so excited, kind of overwhelmed that it was actually happening.
So I was nervous as heck, but she responded to that text message and I was really excited. And it was like a big relief. And we choose a date. We finally got to do it. And it was really cool. I drove all the way up to see her, pick her up, and classic fashion, her family was there waiting for me at the door.
My parents were not home, and then they decided they were like in Tampa. Yeah. And they made a point of like getting back there
in time for me I got there.
And I was like, really?
And I got a little pre-interview.
You had met them before though, like twice, I think.
I guess one other time.
His mom says she remembers meeting you in the dining hall. Anyways.
Yeah, well, I don't. Yeah. And in any case, it was a bit of a like classic pick her up and then had her back by a certain time.
Well, not really.
Not really. I kind of spewed a lot.
I think I'm too old for them to say that.
Yeah. It was just interesting. It was just interesting because like I didn't expect it. Like it was just I felt like it was such a classic like meet your parents before you go on the first date kind of deal.
Yeah, it was.
And
it definitely was.
But it was fun, and then
And we talked and talked and talked and talked on that date, and him especially. There was like a certain point where I was like, I don't know if he will ever finish the story that he's telling me right now.
When I get nervous, I just talk, and
we were walking while we were talking, and like my legs and knees were sore that night.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
but it was great. It was a great date, and we went on the second one. We had our DTR that second date.
Yeah, I kind of forced that.
But it was great, and it was great. And so I think DTRing is like better sooner than later, And so...
and we had been talking for so long on Instagram, so it felt like we were farther along.
Yeah, and so kind of just judge it by your relationship. And I know some of you had some relationship questions and the Q&A, and we'll do a couples episode, we'll do a Q&A with the couples and kind of hear both sides and stuff. But yeah, long story short, we dated for a few more months, and I knew that it was like I knew she was the one because of the way she loved me. Like I said in the last podcast, like she loves me well. She knows how to love me when I need my space and when I need to be with somebody. And she lets me be who I am. And despite the different challenges and stuff.
And I think you do the same for me. Like that was something that was really refreshing for me in this relationship compared to some of the guys that I've known before who were so critical or just didn't. I felt like I couldn't be myself with them. With you, I can be myself, and you love me for who I am. And it's and I had gotten to a point in my life where I felt like, I convinced myself I was unlovable. And show me that I am.
And I put a ring on it. Hey! So, fiance. And yeah, man, it's people like to ask, like, what's different with being engaged. And honestly, not much has changed besides we're planning a wedding and there's a
Yeah.
jewelry on her ring, you know.
Well, I think Tanya asked us this question in your
Yeah.
other podcast, but I
Right.
feel like more has changed.
Yeah,
But maybe because you already kind of knew when it was happening.
yeah, it's hit me a lot longer.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
you've already gotten used to it. You
Right.
had longer to get used to it.
Right. Because it was just, I already had the ring for so long after I got the stimulus check, bought the ring, you know, and yeah, it's just been in my mind of when I was going to do it since then. So I've already had this in sight. Like this was already in sight for a while. So yeah. But I know you guys have questions. We'll get into more of those when we do a Q&A couples episode with, I don't know, who knows who we'll do it with, but we'll get it done. But yeah. Thanks for
there's so
listening.
much we could say,
Yeah,
but-
there's so much. I mean, we could talk
go
your
on
ears
and on
off,
and
but
on.
we're gonna try to keep this a concise podcast. If you want to know more, send us a Q&A. You can send us a voice memo Q&A too. Those are always welcome. And yeah.
And I definitely want to come on again. Probably a day when I have more energy. I don't know.
You have great energy
I feel like
today.
I'm tired, but
comment.
I'm tired right
Send
now.
comments in the description telling her that she's beautiful because she's not listening to me today, and she looks great. So, all right, y'all. I hope that this wasn't cringy or like
That was
weird
cringy.
for you all. I hope you guys enjoy this conversation between two people. I hope you.
This
well.
conversation between two people.
Two people who are in love, right? So, God bless you all. Thank you again for listening. Please follow Sarah at Sarah Bees. Follow Living Ardently at It's Only Adrian. Follow me at It's Only Adrian. Follow the podcast at Living Ardently. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and on the podcast wherever you're listening to. Leave us a review, a comment on anywhere you want to. And yeah, thanks guys for your support. We love you all. Send us some Q&A questions. Talk to us on our social media. We'd love to hear from you. God bless. If you have questions about relationship advice, we'll gladly take that up again in another podcast. Just send them in and we'll save it and bookmark it. So yeah, anything you got to say for those little birds out there, or who are on the fence of talking to somebody?
Just shoot your shot. Like Adrian's really good at shooting his shot, and I am like such a shy person, and I like just had to take that leap of faith with him and do things like getting your number and everything.
Right.
It'll be worth it if it's the right person.
Right.
Like,
Shoot your shot.
like Nike
2020.
said, just do it. Like
This year we've been through enough this
Yeah.
year. Shoot your shot, y'all. Do what you gotta
life is
do
short.
to make it fun.
Yeah.
God bless you guys. I love you so much. Thanks for listening. Make sure you do all the good stuff. Leave us reviews. God bless. And until next time,
Keep living ardently.
peace.
Good job.